Hello everyone, welcome in. This video will be focusing on a little bit of a different topic. The leak in the Delphi murders case got me looking over in its direction since we have been the leading investigation into the medical record leak in the Alexei Trevizo case. And in my last video, we kind of compared just how similar the leaks seem to be with someone taking photos or copies of evidence and releasing it knowing that it was evidence, right? So the particular issues in the Delphi case are not things I would look into on my own. The slaying of two young girls is very, very sad. And I've mentioned before in other videos, I'm not as much of a true crime buff as I am a fan of the law and legal issues, right? And once I turned my attention to the Delphi case, I realized there is a plethora of legal issues going on. And when I saw the state of Richard Allen, the man in custody for the suspected killer, something just really wasn't sitting right with me. And I'm not the only person. There are vocal attorneys and doctors here on YouTube who seem to believe that this man is innocent. So with that being said, I always try not to look into an echo chamber. So I'm going to show you another person who does not believe this, but I believe by the end of this video, you will understand why this is very concerning. But before we do get too deep in, I want to give you a chance to bow out if you are not cool with some of the things we're going to be discussing, which is occult type ideas, cultism, heathen paganry, to be exact. We have hints of corruption. It could be a bit conspiratorial to some, but I think those who are aware of how the law works and certain processes, you will be astonished at what can possibly only be described as corruption in this case. And if you are, uncomfortable with the talk of harm of children, obviously, you might want to bow out because these poor girls were killed in a very horrific way. But I do need to talk about some of the details of that as it pertains to them botching the crime scene and, the investigation and all that kind of stuff, and how they were killed plays a very integral part into the occult themes. So if you're not okay with hearing that, or you are very harsh on people thinking in a possible conspiratorial way, then I would ask you to bow out now, because I actually don't think this is very conspiratorial. That seems to be the negative term thrown at the people who are buying what the defense is saying. I don't find it to be so off base that you would say it's conspiratorial. If you followed the Charlie Adelson trial, the little bit that we followed of that here, you can say that if you really believed in what Charlie Adelson was saying, that is a conspiracy. He was trying to say that he was being extorted in a very odd way that people do not get extorted. When all of the evidence was extremely clear enough for a jury to convict him in only 3 hours, as to his guilt, that was a very conspiratorial defense. Okay, this defense, they come with facts, figures, and there are accusations of Brady evidence being withheld. For my non-extremely legal people, that is evidence that the state has that could pretty much exonerate your client. It's big enough evidence that either proves that they are innocent or would put so much doubt as to this person being the culprit that you basically would need to drop the charges. Brady evidence exonerates you in a sense. Brady evidence is a very, very big deal. Cases get thrown out because Brady evidence is not overturned. There are accusations of Brady evidence not being overturned, which we're going to get into because the evidence that the defense got a hold of is very interesting and could lead us to thinking that Richard Allen is innocent. So like I've said, I don't ever want to be in an echo chamber. I don't want to just look things up for confirmation bias. Video on top is Dr. Todd Grande. He covers a multitude of issues like this and discusses them. He always comes with a very fair and balanced assessment, in my opinion. He's not inflammatory. He does have a video on the Alexi Treviso case. This is his video, and in this video, Dr. Todd Grande proclaims that he actually believes Richard Allen's innocent. Now, on the bottom, this Dr. G, which I know might be a little confusing, but in this video, he attempts to debunk the ritual and multiple killers theory. He does not offer any evidence, in my opinion, to support his claims. He just keeps saying, this isn't how rituals work. This isn't how rituals work. And I'm not fully convinced by that argument. You need to prove to me there isn't a ritualistic element. When I looked at the images of how the sticks were placed, people said they had a message, a Nordic rune message in how the sticks were placed. And I looked at that for all of 5 minutes and found a whole bunch of runes in those placements. So I just kind of discount this Dr. G's saying that there's no ritual here. Just because it doesn't follow any rituals you know of does not mean that this wasn't a sacrifice in some way. So we can continue. Here are some clips from an article, a very good article about this case. There on the bottom, you'll see clips about the clues to Odinism left at the scene, which are Norse runes formed with sticks and tree branches, a painting of the blood, painting using the blood of Libby on the tree, making an F symbol. These fake antlers made out of sticks and branches placed above Abby's head. And yeah, just very, very odd. Now, I did start seeing lots of deer references after I went through the sticks and I saw something in the sticks. That is why up top, you'll see that the Deer Creek part is highlighted. I want you to keep in mind Deer Creek, that is where the girls were taken from the bridge, and it is half a mile away from the last known spot of the girls where they were told to get off the bridge, where they were found in the north banks of Deer Creek. We can continue. So just lining out some of the issues that I have with this case. Number one, the cult got cleared when there is such clear cult symbolism. The way the cult got cleared is extremely suspicious. That the original detectives on the scene, on the case, said obviously this was a ritual cult type thing. Somehow they stumble upon a professor who clears the cult. It tells the detectives there is clearly no signs of a cult here. Like, just, drop that. It's not a cult thing. So that, according to accounts, that professor's not really been found or interviewed by anyone else. It's just a random note saying the cult was cleared by this professor. Like, what? That's crazy to me, especially when I start showing you all the runes I found in the placements of the sticks. Richard Allen is being held in prison, not jail, while awaiting trial. That is not completely unheard of, but it is more rare, in my opinion. Now, by all accounts, Indiana is an extremely secretive place. Court TV, by their own account, said that in the hearing that the judge in this case, point 5 here, the day that the judge kicks the attorneys off the case, for lack of a better term, she, in my opinion, forces them to recuse themselves. And the way she does that is she reads off a statement that she will be. So, okay, I need to back up and start this story from the beginning about the judge. So Richard Allen is being held in prison while awaiting trial. Like I said, Indiana is very secretive, and Court TV said this was the first time they had cameras in the courtroom in Indiana ever. So just let that sink in. Court TV's never had cameras in the courtroom in Indiana ever. This would be the first hearing for anything ever that they got to film. So before the hearing that is scheduled at 2:00, the judge demands to see everyone in the chamber, in her chambers, the attorneys for the defense, Richard Allen, and the state. This is a long document. I won't read you the whole document. I will paraphrase. Essentially, the judge says, I don't want to do this in front of everyone, in front of the cameras. You guys I found that you have been grossly negligent and incompetent, and that's what I'm going to say in court if you don't recuse yourself right now from this case. Now, as an attorney, that is obviously very scary threat, in my opinion, right? You're basically saying on camera in front of the media for the first time ever in Indiana, I'm going to admonish you and call you grossly negligent and incompetent in front of the world. It's a lot of attorneys here on YouTube have said just, wow, they're blown away by this. This is not the right process. This is, you usually have a hearing. The judge made findings without anyone being able to argue. It is just mind blowing, in my opinion. So, with that being said, that is a huge, huge issue. These attorneys have tried to get back on the case for free and represent Mr. Allen because they say that his due process rights and his rights to a speedy trial are being infringed upon because of the removal of counsel. It will take at least a year. They were supposed to go to trial in January, and it has been pushed back to, I believe, October of next year. So you're telling me 10 extra months that this guy is going to be in prison unconvicted. Again, yes, I said prison. They say it's for safekeeping. That is the quote from the sheriff. So, just very, very odd. Now, to get into the weird conspiratorial thing, so to speak, that a lot, some people seem to want to discount. I've seen some people on panels say, like, you're going on, like, this is just like conspiracy and we don't want to, go away from the evidence. Well, first off, the evidence not great against Richard Allen. The evidence, in my opinion, that would exonerate him is very strong. And to say that all of this Odinist, heathen paganry, whatever they want to call it, Vinlander group of religion or whatever it is just off the wall. Well, there is solidified reports. I double checked that, yes, the sworn statements by these guards in the prison are that they wear patches that say "In Odin We Trust" with this weird sliced off American flag with their Odin symbol on it. I will show you them in a minute. Actually, I'll show you real quick before I skip over there. You'll see a picture, a before and after photo of Richard Allen. It is very sad. That was him just when he was living his life, not affected by this crime. And now this is him. I don't know if you noticed the 1,000-yard stare, if you notice how disheveled he is. I'm not, a psychologist. I can't really jump to conclusions, but I see criminals in courts all the time. They often, even when having to wear their jail uniforms, present themselves in a certain way when being seen by people outside of the jail. It's just a way, I know criminals have they have grooming skills and they have a way they want to present themselves to the world too. These are convicted people, people who are probably more than likely guilty when you're seeing them at their initial hearings, right? So it's just really interesting to me that Richard Allen is so disheveled, so 1,000-yard stare. It just like looks like he can't take a drink right, or is drooling, or has some kind of weird stain on his shirt and didn't zip up his jumpsuit over that. It's just very weird and interesting how he's holding his hands don't sit right with me. He's chained at the stomach, very limited movement. And we will get into these patches here. As you'll see, these are the Odinist patches that have been attested that they have worn these patches, these guards. So with that being said, just let that sink in. They wear these patches. Another inmate has been recording alleged abuses that are being perpetrated on Mr. Richard Allen here while he's in prison. So this is just a snippet of the yellow highlighted letter, just a snippet from the inmate who has been keeping tabs on what's going on. Now, according to this inmate was taken from their cell and thrown to the ground. Their ankle was extremely hurt. I don't know if it was actually broken. They say it was broken. They were obviously injured. They say that the guards threatened the nurse to not treat the injuries when this person was brought back to their cell. The legal documents and papers that had been being used to record the times and dates and abuses that had been being perpetrated on Richard Allen were taken from his possession. This inmate, I understand people say, why can we take an inmate at their word? This inmate names people very specifically and also says that there is video camera evidence of this. So I am leaning towards taking this inmate for their word. I have heard crazy stories from inmates trying to get deals, inmates making things up when they hear things on the news. That is completely, that's a thing. This is not ringing like that to me. This is ringing like, this guy is actually fallen into something bigger than himself in trying to protect Mr. Richard Allen here. Another side note on this, this man, on the date that the hearing was supposed to happen, that the judge basically shut down by making the attorneys recuse themselves, this inmate was supposed to come and testify as to these abuses. For some reason, this inmate is supposedly wouldn't come out of their cell to come and testify. So take that for what you will. And when the judge was told, the judge said, fine, leave them there. Basically, you'd think a judge who is concerned or knew that this is getting conspiratorial, you'd think a judge who knows that a hearing is happening at 2:00 where reported abuses on a non-convicted inmate are supposed to be discussed would feel it imperative that this inmate come to be the witness since they have spoken out so publicly about this. That person would be forced to come, that they use a SWAT team and they would make them come out of their cell. That is how it works. It's called an extraction. They do it and they make people come to court all the time. So very weird that the judge's response in that was, whatever, let him stay. Almost as if the judge knew that this hearing wasn't going to happen because she was going to force these attorneys out. Very suspicious to me. Very suspicious. These are, I understand these are criminals, but to completely ignore like human rights abuse, alleging that these people are being abused, is a huge issue for me. Huge issue because number one, this guy is not convicted, Richard Allen, and number two, even if he was, it doesn't give us the right to allow abuses to happen to people and not do something about it. That makes us no better than the criminals, in my opinion. So no, just because you're convicted, even of a horrific crime, other people don't get to hurt you. That's not how it works in America. Okay, before we get into the runes and the placement on the body of the sticks, I would like to show you the evidence that the defense team that has now been removed from Richard Allen has found and came up with. I know all of you are fans of good investigations and good investigatory skills, right? I don't know if I said that right, but that's what we do here. We love people filling in clues and putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and not in a BS way, right? Like in my opinion, how we get from Gary Mitchell, the defense attorney in the Treviso case, he's trying to fill in questions that the public has unsuccessfully, in my opinion, with answers that don't make any sense. But this defense team has done their due diligence, done their research, and this is some of the evidence that I believe would show that Richard Allen is innocent, and for some reason it does not seem to be wanted to be entered, obviously, by the state and maybe even the judge. I can understand the state not wanting evidence that exonerates the defendant entered, and I understand fighting against that. Not really ethical, in my opinion, because this evidence of these people are very, very damning, in my opinion. But for the judge to, at least in my opinion, how it seems from the outside, not want a hearing about this and not want this evidence to come in and be discussed in a motions hearing is very weird, because it will, in my opinion, blow your mind. Okay, so I stole these little screenshots from the court TV video because it's easier than me typing all this out myself. I was like, oh, I can just screenshot these and put them in here. So this is from court TV. I always want to, tell you when it's not something I made. Look how good this looks. This first person, so there is person A through E. So we're going to go through each person and the evidence that the defense found. These are people that were looked into by the investigators, and for some reason, these leads were not followed up on, okay, which is just like mind-blowing. So person A, and these people are kind of scattered throughout Indiana, but the more I thought about that, I was like, it's all kind of still accounted for as to them being there at the time. And just because you guys live far away from each other doesn't mean you don't all have a weird ritual belief, pagan, heathen religion thingy, right? Sorry to not be very specific on that, but it is a very confusing thing. I'm not well versed in pagan heathenry. I'm not, a pagan heathen expert. I don't study cults or religions. Far from that. That's crazy to me. So if you hear me kind of saying, Odinism, heathenism, whatever, that's because I honestly don't know what they're called. It's very confusing, but it's very clear whatever this Vinlander gang or whatever it is, they're very tied to Nordic tradition, and that's where my education can come in and say, okay, well, let's read up on all of the figures in Norse mythology and put together a theory for what the heck these sticks and everything mean. So sorry for that long rant, but if you're confused on the Odinism Vinlander thing, that's okay. Everyone is. We're obviously not part of this, pagan heathen religion. And I mean, no disrespect to any pagans out there or whatever. Like, if you don't hurt people, I literally don't care what you do. I'll just put that out on the table. You can believe some weird stuff, but if you don't hurt other people and you're just weird onto yourself, like, that's whatever. I don't care. That's literally none of my business. But if you're part of like some group and people are doing weird crap like this and doing like horrific crimes, things change. You can go out and like worship trees or like deers or whatever as much as you want, but when it gets to this level, you guys are criminals and that's not okay. So I'm not lumping all the pagan heathen people together or whatever, because I've never really heard of you guys really hurting people like this before. So please, no disrespect to them, but whatever this is weird, and they're using your pagan heathen stuff for evil, in my opinion. So you guys should be just as offended that someone did this, in my opinion. So anyways, person A, his son was dating Abby Williams, one of the deceased. Interesting. He would visit person B, who we'll get to, in Delphi to practice Asturu/Odin rituals. Okay. And this person's associated with the Vinlander gang. Again, I'm not fully sure what that is, but it appears to be a Nordic gang. Okay. Person B, their home is 3.1 miles from the closest entry point of the murder scene. People have tried to use a fact kind of like that against Mr. Richard Allen, but by other accounts, he would have had to scale, I think, about 4 miles in the woods, bloody after everything, and have went and gotten back to his house through the woods, somehow left his vehicle behind, that they have proof his vehicle was there because he said he was on the trails that day. So I just find that interesting that this person has a very similar piece of evidence, but that evidence was used against Richard Allen, which by all accounts, he was honest with his time frame of being there, and you definitely would be extremely bloody and messy after this, because, trigger warning, their throats were slit. That was how they were killed, and it appears that ritualistic things happened with the blood. So I don't know if you've ever had a serious injury or been bleeding profusely, but blood is messy. It's not an exaggeration when you're like, how come people, like, you see it on the crime shows that they get caught? You cannot clean up blood perfectly. It is not ever going to be perfectly gone. Bleach won't get rid of it. And good luck if someone is bleeding profusely to not get it everywhere in some way, shape, or form. So this person or people would have had to be extremely bloody. And so it's just odd to me that the route that they say Richard Allen would have had to take through the woods would have been just a crazy mess. You would have, at some point, if you thought it was him or something like that, wouldn't you have gone to check the trail of blood, see if there's blood smeared on any other trees as they're running home. It's yeah, again, very suspicious. This second person lives just in the same area that they used that argument point against Richard Allen, but this person is cleared. They have Asturu and Odinist religious ceremonies at their home. In 2016, a video seems to show person B using a finger to mark or paint a tree. Now that comes in, and we are going to discuss that even more when I show you the stick placements on the body, because there is supposedly an F on the tree out of Libby's blood. And Libby is the one who is reaching up and touching the tree. And there's an F in her blood drawn on the tree. Some people have argued and said it's just blood splatter, like it's not intentional. I think that if enough people who've seen this have said that it's an F mark on the tree, then I definitely think it's something to think about. And I have a reason as to why it probably is an F that follows along with the deer thing. So we'll get into that. But I know this one might be a leap that this guy has a video showing him using his finger to mark or paint a tree, but I mean, that's by all accounts what happened at this crime scene. So person C drove to Delphi around Valentine's Day in 2017 to see his Vinlander buddies. It's very significant because Abby and Libby were killed on February 13th, 2017. So around Valentine's Day, that was literally the day before Valentine's Day, they were found on the next day at noon on Valentine's Day. So odd that this person went to Delphi to see Vinlander buddies. When he drove back from Delphi, someone has claimed that they saw blood along the side of their car. So that person goes to Delphi the day these kids are murdered to see Odinist Vinlander buddies or whatever, and then comes back with blood on his car. Very suspicious. Person D is linked to person A through Facebook. He recreates Facebook posts made by person A, so some kind of follower or possible, in my opinion, when I read that, initiant. Okay, and I will show you that one of the runes I found in the sticks made on the body is like a rune for initiation. So just keep that in mind. Very, very weird. Told his sisters he was involved in these murders and said that he was part of a gang. Weird, right? Because like I'm just like, the more I read, I was like, oh my gosh, initiation. And then the last thing, he said that he made horns out of the sticks and placed them on Abby's head. This blows my mind here because that was not released to the public. That was not meant to be known to anyone. They were very, very, very tight and sealed with all of this evidence. Nothing like this was getting out to anyone. The only leaks that started happening were once this defense team started for Richard Allen. They may or may not be intentionally doing that. If they really believe they have an innocent guy and a conspiracy is happening, I would completely understand them feeling the need that they have to leak certain things. I don't think that the photos was intentional. I do think someone took opportunity and did that, but again, I would understand, honestly, if the defense was feeling like they needed to get information out to the public about this because it's very suspicious. So this statement was said before anything like that was released to the public. No one knows or knew at the time about the horn/antlers on Abby's head fastened out of sticks. So let's take all of these into account. This person recreates posts made by person A, told people he was part of the murders and was in a gang, and said that he did something that did exactly happen at the crime scene. This screams to me that Richard Allen is innocent. It's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing to me that these people got cleared. This is enough evidence to arrest. I mean, you could try and argue me on that. Is this not enough evidence to arrest this person? Like, person E told police he was with person D in Muncie, Sorry, I don't know all the little towns in Indiana. So, told police he was with person D in Muncie, Indiana, visiting a friend in the hospital on the day of the murders. Told police person D was communicating inappropriately with underage girls on the internet. Weird. From what I understand, we can tell that that is a lie because person D has stated he was at the crime scene, knows information about the crime scene, but they are using each other as some sort of alibi to say that they weren't there. That's my opinion. And so this is all extremely disturbing when you figure that the defense was able to find all these people, connect all these people through the, evidence that the investigators had. The investigators chose to go after a man who I will now tell you all the evidence that has been released that links Richard Allen to this crime. There is his own statements, that he was there that day. Never had an issue talking to the police, never was in any accounts shady, sketchy, weird about anything when he talked to the police. He was forthcoming with saying he was there. They believe the car referenced by three different witnesses is Richard Allen's car. By all accounts, he was driving a 2016 Ford Focus that day. Two witnesses described a suspicious car backed up to the old building as an SUV. One described it as a smart car. And the first witness who said it was an SUV also said it could have been a PT Cruiser. I don't know about you guys, but a 2016 Ford Focus sedan does not look anything like an SUV or a PT Cruiser, and that should be looked into. Why is that interesting to me? Well, if there was 4 to 5, A, B, C, D, E, yeah, 5 dudes, an SUV would make sense, or a bigger car would make sense to transport all those men to the murder site, right? If they're all trying to come together for an initiation into some kind of Vinlander gang, you'd need a bigger car. So 2 out of 3 witnesses state that the car is an SUV, and one possibly says it's a PT Cruiser. It looks nothing like a sedan. That's just point blank, period. I will throw it up on the screen here or something. I'm sorry I didn't prepare that for you, but I will throw it up on the screen what a PT Cruiser, an SUV, and a 2016 Ford Focus looks like. Very different, and I know because obviously not everyone is car people and can just like visualize what those cars look like. That's what they look like. So that's evidence that they used against him, that his car was there. He said his car was there and parked there. If someone saw a smart car, I would possibly think that's more like the Ford Focus. It is a very small sedan. They may not have seen the larger car, or they only had the small car stick out to them. But again, Richard Allen has never denied being there, such as these people all had different stories and denied being there at the time, right? Even though other people said that, well, one guy drove up there literally that day, comes back with blood on his car. Richard Allen never denies that he was there, admits to it, has stuck to his story, and that speaks volumes to me. So now let's get into these sticks and how they're placed. This is very, very important. I hope you do not think I'm a crazy person as we go in through this, because I am not the only one who thinks this. I didn't find these runes just like looking at it and being like, this is a Nordic sacrifice. No, I'm not some Sherlock Holmes over here. People said that it's been claimed that Nordic runes were in these stick layouts. And it's also been claimed that by the defense, who has seen the photos of the sticks, mind you, everyone, that these sticks were not collected as evidence. Nope, they left these sticks. We don't know what happened to these sticks. But according to the photos that have been seen by the defense, they claim that these were cut by power tools. They were pre-cut. These aren't just like ripped off of the tree or picked up as you would go along on a hike or something. No, these were pre-cut and made. So keep that in mind as we talk about the significance of these sticks and the pattern that they're laid out in, and the information regarding these possible runes, okay? So these are what the runes look like. This is one of many different photos you can find online if you look up Nordic runes. So let's look at the first one I found. This one stood out to me immediately. What I did was I put up a picture of the runes next to each individual photo of Abby and Libby, and I just started comparing what the sticks looked like to the figures in these runes. And, you know, and when they matched up, I took note and I tried to find as many as I could. If you are a really awesome puzzle person or you see something in these that I missed, please let me know, because I am not a professional cipher puzzle person over here. But I was like, I could probably find a good amount of these runes in here if people are saying there are runes. So first, I do not know how to pronounce these. This is mouthies, Nauthies, I don't know. This one is found on both the bodies, but we'll focus on this one right now, just on Abby. Now, this has a meaning of hard, hollow lack, cold earth, dark days, the emptiness of loss, starvation, dark night of the soul. Very dark. Now, the next very clear rune that I saw, and this was also made out of the antlers that were on Abby's head, because as you can see here, they have the two little sticks. I've covered them because it also makes algaes or alges, and I found this to be very important because it is the 15th rune in the older Forthark. Don't know how to say that. It is what connects the two worlds of life and death through the Rainbow Bridge. That jumped out to me when I was like, well, this could make this rune. And I looked up what this rune meant because they were taken off a bridge. The video that's on Libby's phone, a guy is walking up to him and says, guys, down the hill. And they're standing on a bridge. Okay. So very interesting in as far as symbology for whoever may have perpetrated this. The next one I saw was this Lagus. This one was very scary as well. It is a negative rune. It signifies powerlessness to act in the face of overwhelming opposition. That's very dark, but I think you can understand why that might be represented in the sticks on these two girls who were obviously overpowered. Very dark and disturbing. If you connect the odd placement of Abby's leg, how they left Abby with her leg laying over her other leg like that, it also makes another rune. I don't know. This is the one that I was talking about initiation, death mysteries, timeless, eternity, immortality. So when you compare that with how one of the person says they're in a gang, they replicate everything that the leader, person A, seems to do, that they put these deer horns on Abby. My theory is beginning to believe that this small group of people should or could have connections to deer. I know that's going to sound weird, but my theory revolves around deer, and I think you'll get what I mean when I keep going. We move on to Libby here, and this is where you start to see the deer stuff pop up more. Now, remember before I said they were found in Deer Creek. There's just a lot of deer stuff going on here. The antlers that we already saw on Abby. We move on to Libby here, and we see Nauthies again. Like I said, it's very prominent on both of these bodies. When you look at this one, which, the loss, starvation, dark night of the soul, pretty much indicators of death. Now, before I get into my deer theory, I need you to have an open mind. I need you to try and see what I may have seen in this, because as I was sitting and staring at these sticks and the runes, I realized that these sticks all mean something, but these leftover sticks that don't make Nauthies here on Libby don't add up to any kind of rune, any kind of symbology, any kind of other thing I saw. And as I sat there and stared at it, it popped out to me. It's a deer or an elk or a stag. It is very big in their belief. So follow me on this theory that these sticks are laid out to look like a deer. Okay, very rudimentary, but a deer. So just follow me on this if you would. When I look up deer meaning in Norse or Nordic mythology, I came across this. It says that the stag god, stag meaning deer, is Freyr. Now, the tree that Libby is touching has an F in her blood drawn on the tree. Freyr, stag god. I don't know, but it could be something. This is where it gets even weirder because I do believe that is an elk or deer or stag made out of the twigs or sticks. It says here that in Norse mythology, 4 stags or harts are said to nibble the leaves of the world tree Yigdish. I don't know how to say that, but the important part is nibble the leaves of the world tree. She is touching the tree. She's at the base of this tree. It also says that according to the poetic Edda, which is very important in the Norse mythology, the stags crane their necks upwards to reach the branches. And if you look here at the placement of Libby's body, she is reaching upwards towards a tree with what appears to be an elk, stag, or deer, whatever you want to call it, made out of twigs on her. I do believe whoever these guys are have an innate fascination or worship of the deer god of deer or something like that, because everything else is just Nordic runes, but there seem to be very specific offerings or symbology, for lack of a better word, to Freyr, a stag god. Now it goes further. You will see this is a a vestivere of the Norse religion and beliefs and all that. You will see that the stag or the elk is very important to their religion. On the other side, you can see a thing made where if you look up Norse things, you'll see like a lot of jewelry or things made that have very Nordic designs and might even have an elk and then a truly Nordic symbol just like this with the elk and this vestivere here. So again, that's not like proof that these guys are worshiping the elk, but it is just to show you that the elk is a deer, elk, stag is very integral to this belief system. Now this part you'll have to follow me on as well because that stick stood out to me once I saw that that was a deer or elk, and I was like, well, doesn't that look like a spear? And when I started reading up on the Norse mythology, I remember going, oh, well, Odin, their god, has a spear. So I went back and looked into Odin's spear, and there it is. It's called Gunthir, whatever, Gunner, I don't know, Gunger. The thing that I found interesting was, according to like the Poetic Edda or whatever these, books and ancient knowledge that these Norse heathen pagans believe in, it is shown if they believe this person is Odin on this thing, riding in to hunt to kill an elk with his spear. Yes, an elk with his spear. And to me, that looks like an elk with a spear through it. So again, I am not, Sherlock Holmes over here, but it does not sit right with me that this cult was cleared. And I am just a chick on YouTube who's like, well, I see a lot of, deer worship in this actually too. And I would bet you almost anything that if these people mentioned here were actually investigated, that you might find some odd deer paraphernalia, for lack of a better term, or deer things in their life, things that they have elk or deer or stag fascinations or worship, because they seem to be a small sect, whatever this Vinlander gang is, or their initiation has to do with deer. Now, it's pretty scary to think about, but deer are something that are commonly hunted. They're hunted and killed. Unfortunately, they may see that their sacrifice of the 2 young girls, Abby and Libby, was them hunting and killing for these nefarious heathen pagan purposes. And it's very hard to think about. And I understand when people are saying this gets conspiratorial and gets very weird and occult, but just because we cannot wrap our minds around and we are not people who would do something like this does not mean it's not possible that a group of people are able to do something like this and keep their mouth shut. I don't know how it goes uninvestigated, how it goes to Richard Allen being arrested, how it goes to him being held in prison instead of jail, how it goes to the judge kicking off the attorneys who have built this defense here. Very suspicious. I am very upset that these attorneys who have put in such good work, I mean, they found all these people, they found connections to these people, they found them coming up at the time of this crime. They have this person who's clearly an initiant into this gang. And they have runes that say there is initiation into this gang. So I just don't know why or how this person and people were cleared. um, I think I may have skipped over something on this as well. Hold on. Okay, my apologies. I was about to reference this information and then I realized I did not put this slide in there and did not talk about it. So I'm so sorry. It looks weird. It wouldn't let me enter the slide now that I was already recording. But this is a second screenshot from, Court TV's breakdown of these individuals that the defense believes did this. This also is extremely incriminating evidence, so I'm so sorry I forgot to put it in the first time, but I was about to reference it, and I was like, wait, I didn't tell them this. This person D, who also had other information about them, and we'll go back to that in a second, but they asked the police if he could explain why his spit was on the girls, would he still be in trouble? What? That is crazy to me. No one checked for that. Investigators described him as having the mental capacity of a 7 or 8-year-old. I don't care. This person is making incriminating statements. And then also, this person lied to police when he told them that he did not know person C. So the other stuff about person D, again, was here. Person D linked to person A through the Facebook posts, said he made the horns, told his sisters he was involved in a murder, this murder to be exact, and that he was part of a gang. And like I showed you on this one, he also lied about knowing person C, basically admits that his spit would be on these girls, and seems to have a low IQ, but also seems to remember putting antlers made out of sticks on Abby's head. So I'm not sure how low IQ you should, write this person off as. Sometimes crazy people seem stupid, but they're just crazy, and they are actually quite insidious, and you should not discount their intelligence. So with that being said, they said that he did not know person C, which was this person, the person who literally drove up there to see his Vinlander buddies. And when he drove back from Delphi, had blood in his car. So he distanced himself from that guy and made all kinds of other incriminating statements. So when it comes to all of this, I am completely flabbergasted that the judge has removed the defense, who put in so much work because of a couple leaks here or there, that you can't actually prove that the defense intentionally did or were grossly negligent for having had happen. That might just be my opinion, but again, you guys see how tough I am on the leak in the Alexi Treviso case. That is because it seems to be very insidious from whoever did it. They did not care and just willy-nilly threw it out there. And the defense in this case, in the Delphi case, Richard Allen's defense, does not seem to have anything indicating that they intentionally released this, that someone took advantage and did something bad, just like in the Alexi case. So I don't think that they should be coming down on these defense attorneys who are putting in legitimate work, finding evidence that would exonerate their client, and are now kicked off the case. The case is pushed back 10 more months, so essentially a year extra this man is having to wait in prison. I find a lot of issues with this. I am happy that the leaker is having justice brought, but again, it seems very suspicious that they are so quick and able to bring the conversion charges against Mitchell Westerman, the leaker in that case, and they weren't able to bag up the sticks that were found on these poor young girls' body that indicated a cult ritual. That's very suspicious to me. You're able to investigate a leak on stuff that the state definitely didn't want to get out and has categorized as like a conspiracy theory by the defense. Well, I hate to break it to them, but I am not easily manipulated or swayed into believing, things, especially con artistry. I'm a skeptic. That I find a lot of issues with the state's case on this. And I really do hope if Richard Allen is found innocent, that a huge lawsuit comes against the facility he's being held in and all of the people who have power over him right now, who are, basically, in my opinion, allowing abuses to be perpetrated on a possibly innocent man. And I can say that because he's not being convicted, not just because all this evidence seems to basically exonerate him as the suspect in this crime, but also he's not a convicted criminal. So we definitely want to make sure that his human rights are being upheld. And I am very disturbed by what's going on in this case. I am no Sherlock Holmes, like I said, I'm no genius, but if you guys follow me on this deer theory here and you see what I'm saying, I hope you can understand that I'm not just a crazy person taking shots in the dark. There are a lot of odd things like the touching of the tree, the F in the blood, what looks like a deer with a spear through it, a friar, the stag god, with the F on the tree, like I said. Very, very weird. There's a lot of signs in mythology with the elk in their Norse beliefs, and they reach up and touch the tree, just how Libby is in their belief system. Odin is seen going in to kill an elk with a spear, looks like an elk with a spear through it. So, again, I'm not a crazy person. Hopefully, I'm not just, what do they say, seeing like a message in the tea leaves or whatever. I'm not claiming to be like I said, either Sherlock Holmes or a crazy person. I do think that right smack dab in the middle of that is this actually makes sense. And people might try and gaslight you saying like, oh, well, no, there's no Nordic runes. This isn't happening. Um, like I said, I try not to have confirmation bias, so I did watch videos trying to debunk this theory, and they did not offer solid evidence or proof as to why these aren't ritualistic rune type formations. The guy on the bottom, that video, he didn't even show, in my opinion, I don't think, any possible formations or anything like that. He just said, no, this isn't what it is. No, 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 no. And so I don't like feeling dismissed or gaslit about possible theories of possible innocent people. The best evidence they have against Richard Allen, other than him saying he was there, is this unspent bullet that was not photographed at the crime scene, but was allegedly found in between the two bodies of the girls, for some reason unphotographed. They say that it matches if you run a bullet through a gun owned by Richard Allen, but you don't fire it. Very important. It wasn't a fired bullet. It was just loaded into the gun and taken out. They say that the scratches on the found bullet match scratches that would come out of a bullet on this man's gun. That's their smoking gun theory. If you watch Dr. Grande's video, he is very dismissive of the science behind unspent bullet, ballistic matching and all that kind of stuff. It does seem to be not something you would want to get convicted on. It's not solid evidence, in my opinion, and I'm not the only one who thinks that. I looked into it after he said that, and I tried to, I see there's no evidence, like they haven't released the photos. Maybe one day we will get to see just how good these scratches match up. But as for right now, I find it to be weak evidence, and that's the only thing tying him to the crime scene. Other than him saying he was on the bridge and taking walks on these trails that day, nothing else ties him to this crime scene. We've not seen any hint of DNA evidence. We don't have any hint of anything. Supposedly, a new detective, once it was a cold case, who got on the case said that, well, we never looked at this guy who said he was here, and they built the case off that. They reopened it and just targeted Richard Allen, in my opinion, and basically completely ignored all these people, like, people A through E that seem to have a lot of stuff pointing towards them as the actual perpetrators in this crime. So that's basically all I have on this for right now. I'm going to keep watching. There is still a decision to be made by the Supreme Court in Indiana of if and how Richard Allen will get his attorneys back, or if he will indeed have to start with the new attorneys afforded to him by the judge. Very, very suspicious. The judge has responded to the writ of mandamus, which was filed by the original attorneys who were kicked off. They got their own attorneys to file a writ of mandamus. The judge responded by saying that you're trying to skirt the system of an appeal. Oh, and also you're not allowed to do an appeal, so sucks to suck, basically. And it's like, well, yeah, stupid lady, that's why they did a writ of mandamus, because they realized the appeal is not going to work and they can't do an appeal, but they do feel like they have an issue here that is big enough to literally write a writ of mandamus about to the Supreme Court. So the judge is pretty pissed off about that, as she should be, because she is looking really bad right now to a lot of people, not just me. Actual lawyer, legal experts here on YouTube are saying, like, this is extremely suspect and very weird. So I will be keeping my eye out as to what decision is officially made in that case. And it will either continue to bolster this conspiracy or it will hopefully squash it. So hopefully Indiana knows that even though they're secretive and don't like cameras in the courtroom, everyone is watching, and I can sense it that it's only going to grow bigger and grow from here, because I would have never been looking in this case's direction if the judge didn't do all this shady stuff, so to speak, in my opinion. I would have kind of just let this case go by the wayside and said, yep, some guy got arrested for the murder of two girls, nothing to see here. It's a typical normal person going to trial, and if they're guilty, they're guilty. If they're not, they're not. Well, this judge very suspiciously started acting very, very, very weird. And now people are looking, people are talking about this. I am not the only one. Um, People way more intelligent and with more power than I have, as far as like their celebrity, as far as a lawyer on YouTube and stuff, they are looking into this too and saying, "What the heck? This is not how it goes. Everyone deserves a chance." Like even the state, like the judge just kicked these attorneys off, and the state didn't even get a chance to file their, some kind of statement about it and plead their side. Even though they would have been in favor of it, they still had the right to do that. The defense had the right to file motions and argue against being kicked off. Everyone had a right to do that. The state showed up that day into the in-chambers meeting with witnesses and a whole presentation that the defense was not made aware of, and so they were not going to be able to properly rebut anything that was being said or presented. It was a lot, and so I just don't enjoy, even if someone is guilty, their rights being trampled all over, in my opinion. So we will keep an eye on this. I think that they have shot themselves in the foot if there is a conspiracy going on and if they are trying to protect certain people for what they did. The whole world, so to speak, is now watching. This case has made its way to other forums and other places on the internet, like me, where this leak got me looking at you, and all these documents from this, transcript with the judge got me really side-eyeing it. So I'm like, oh my goodness, we will definitely be following this, because you guys know I have a heart for justice, and I really don't think this guy is guilty. And to see what he's going through, to see that 1,000-yard stare, to see how disheveled he is. I know prison and jail is not easy on everyone. I know people go through transitions, but you see a lot of other inmates looking a lot better than that. And those, not to just generalize here, but criminals who are built for that lifestyle of prison and jail and stuff like that, they transition better. They do okay. That's their environment, so to speak, right? The people who come from the streets and have a hard life, a rap of crime rap sheet that goes deep. They know how to transition. That is basically a home away from home for real criminals when they go to jail or prison. Now, people who are innocent and didn't kill anyone might end up looking a bit like this guy in jail. I know that is extremely circumstantial, but it's just kind of my opinion. When I look at this guy, I'm like, You don't look like you're holding up very well. I know it's traumatizing to be in jail, but it just does not seem like the reaction of a cold-blooded killer who's been caught. Those people are very narcissistic and sociopathic typically, and they have a way they like to present themselves when they know cameras are around or when they know they are being filmed or in the courtroom. They don't show up disheveled unless completely having a, they're not right in their mind. Criminals who are cunning and deceptive and not just flat out, someone who would qualify for an insanity plea, so to speak, they usually have grooming habits and they have ways of presenting and carrying themselves that they look okay coming into a courtroom straight out of a prison or jail. This just rings to me an innocent guy who is going through it in prison right now, possibly being abused. People say that's what's happening. Just everything about how he looks screams to me that he is, I'm trying to get to the photo. Everything about how he looks here screams to me innocent guy who has been railroaded and has no clue what the hell has happened in his life. Maybe I am just putting my own thoughts and feelings into this image, but they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. And when I see this, it screams to me either a completely someone who has mental issues. I'm not trying to, be rude or anything like that. Someone who is completely not there, for lack of a better word, could completely qualify for an insanity plea. Well, as though he looks like this, his attorneys have made no mention of insanity plea, any kind of affirmative defense as far as Richard Allen. So to me, that indicates that like he's not a crazy man, that the circumstances which are being impressed upon him are withering away his mental health. And according to the other inmate, who is the whistleblower in this case, that he is being subjected to severe mental and physical abuses. And I don't know about you guys, but just looking into the difference in this man's face, obviously weight loss and stuff like that happens. You're not seeing sunlight, so you're going to look different. But realistically, that stare looks like someone who just got pulled off a battlefield. Like a kid who got drafted and thrown into battle completely unprepared. That's just kind of like how I see his face. Someone who was not ready for war and has been thrown into a war, and I don't even know how you cope mentally as an innocent person being held in prison, believing that a cult did this, and then seeing guards have cult patches on their uniforms, sorry, and then for the judge to take away your attorneys that you're very happy with and are exposing quite possibly what is the truth in this case, right? That is enough to send someone over the edge. So that is why I'm very concerned when I looked into everything in this case, because put yourself in Richard Allen's shoes for a minute. Say you're an innocent person in prison, not jail. I know that sometimes they say, oh, well, prison's better because you settle in, you get, jail is full of rowdy, ruckus people who aren't there for a long time, a lot of in and out. Like, there are differences. But him being held in jail would be a very, very different situation than being on a severe lockdown in prison. It's been speculated and said that he's on basically a 23/1 schedule, solitary or locked down 23 hours a day, out 1 hour a day. And in that time, abuses are being perpetrated according to other inmates. So that is why I'm like, this is extremely concerning. And Indiana is very secretive and wants to keep everything on lock. And as someone who is hard on leaks, I am one right now to ask and tell Indiana, release everything. Release everything you have. I want every detective's note. I want everything. I want to know all the people that you guys should have been looking into, could have been looking into. We, as the general public, deserve to know that you botched this investigation, right? And that's my opinion, but how do you not bag the sticks at the crime scene? And how do you have a dude in prison looking like this and not have the judge hold the hearing with the attorneys of record right then and there, knowing that like alleged abuses are happening to this man, and instead you kick off the attorneys before even trying to get to the bottom of that or help fix that, you can ignore the leak for one hearing to help Richard Allen, but she didn't. It's very weird. It's very weird. And I'm very concerned with how he looks. Like I said, it's circumstantial, but I see criminals all the time. They are doing fine in jail and prison. Not every prison, obviously, prison's not a great place, but they don't look like this. Okay. This is not the constant state of the common everyday prisoner. And if it is, then we have some serious issues in our country. So that is basically all I have for you right now. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And I do genuinely enjoy the conversation. If you're interested in following cases like this or the Alexi Treviso case to trial, please subscribe as I will be covering them all along the way with the legal focus. It's your girl Friday. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.